accept everyone. There we go. Over to you.
Hello, everybody. Thank you all so much for coming. We're really excited to share some information about the Community Volunteer Income Tax Program and what we've learned over the past 5 years. With me today is Cindy Lowen. She is our Volunteer Services Coordinator and kind of the coordinator for all things taxes for the region of Barons Eureka Warner, which is a big region. And so one of the things we'll talk to you about for the tax program is how to cover kind of a wider scope. My name is Kaitlynn Weaver. I'm the Outreach Services Supervisor. So I run the departments of Volunteer Services, Senior Services, and Youth Services. So I'm relatively new to the tax program within the last 1.5 years of having this position. So Cindy will be taking the lead on the conversation today. But without further ado, let me do my best to share some slides here. There it is. Sorry, I'm used to Teams. I think after 2.5 years of COVID and doing things online, I'd know how to do this by now. Okay, there we go. Share. Can you see the slides?
We do see the slides. It shows as the whole PowerPoint program, though, not just the slides.
So it shows you the little explanation as well. That's weird. I don't want this.
I think if you just hit from beginning, maybe it'll just open right up.
Yeah. Under file from beginning.
I turn up the volume. Turn it up. Maybe just on here.
Oh, turn it up.
Do I have a volume button on here? Oh, you're so oops, I'm so out of it with computers now that I'm old.
I did it. Okay, we are here. Sorry about that. Okay, so we wanted to host this session to give other FCSSs an inside look into how we're operating the tax program since it's been so incredibly successful over the last few years. Like I said, my name is Kaitlynn Weaver, and then with me is Cindy Lowen. Just because we can't see 2 screens, please put all of your questions in the chat and we'll do a little question and answer period at the end. And just to give you kind of an inside look, this isn't a how to use the Community Volunteer Income Tax Program. We do share a little bit of stuff on the website that they have, reminded us to do. But if you want to know, step-by-step process of how to use the Community Volunteer Income Tax Program, connect with your regional coordinator or go to the CVITP website. Okay, so this is a page from our most recent report to our municipalities about the Community Volunteer Income Tax Program since 2018. So in I think 2017, we started out doing the tax program just in the Tabor area, which is where Cindy and I are based right now, just to kind of pilot the program. And we do have 16 municipalities that we are kind of a part of. And so from each year, we've decided to expand it as time has gone on. And so you'll see in 2022, we were able to complete 443 tax returns in all 16 municipalities that we serve, including all the way down to Coots. And so from 2021, we've seen a 45% increase in usage for the tax program, which is a lot. We do offer the tax program year round. So actually Cindy just took a couple clients yesterday. And yeah, maybe is there anything else you want to add? Nope. So this is kind of our little graph to show the increase over time, which is really nice. This, for those of you who don't know where Barons Eureka Warner is, this is kind of a map of our region. So we are in Lethbridge County, the municipal district of Tabor, and the county of Warner, and we do support the 16 communities within that region. So although we are based out of Tabor, we do support folks with the tax program, as well as other things all over the region. which is one of the things that we'll talk about today for how we have kind of learned over time. The first thing I want to share with you is just our registration form. So we have incorporated the requirements that FCSS AA is asking of us to include, as well as some of the stuff that our tax volunteers need more information for. So one thing, and we actually change this each year to make sure that it's applicable to both FCSS AA, our purposes for our own reporting program, as well as the CVITP. And so you'll see on page 2 here that it says, are you a Canadian citizen? Yes or no. Did you sell your home in the tax year? Yes or no. And this is questions that we include to make sure that our volunteers who do the taxes have all the information that they need to complete the tax return. So then they're not constantly having to call the client or call us and to find more information. And so although it's, it's pretty quick, it's easy, it does save a lot of time for our tax volunteers. Okay, so on to just the CVITP, which hopefully most of you know this information already. But the income criteria of who can access the Community Volunteer Income Tax Program is set by the Community Volunteer Income Tax Program, and it is updated each year to consider inflation. So this is the income criteria for 2021, and it just goes through the total family income. However, we recognize, and the CVITP recognizes, that we can use our own discretion for deciding if someone who is in a special circumstance, who is outside of this tax bracket, is able to access the program. So for example, a referral from a probation officer for an individual who had been incarcerated for the last year, they needed a little bit of extra support. Okay, I think that's it for me. I am going to turn it over to Cindy. Thank you.
Yes. So the CVITP sets out the criteria for who can access the Community Volunteer Income Tax Program. So the volunteers cannot prepare returns for individuals who have self-employment income. And you'll see a little star, and we'll talk about that in a minute, who have business or rental income and expenses, who have capital gains or losses, have employment expenses, who have filed for bankruptcy, or who have passed away in the current tax year. So the little asterisks, clients who have self-employment income, volunteers can prepare tax returns for people who have self-employment income in box 48, and their return is still considered simple. So that means it has to be under $1,000. They can't be claiming expenses. So for example, they can't be claiming power or telephone in their homes if they're using it as a home office. They cannot be registered or required to report their GST. And we most commonly see this if we do returns for people who have income in box 48 for people who are providing childcare services.
Can I just pause you there, Cindy, for a second? There was a note in the chat that people are having trouble hearing.
Oh, okay.
If you can just come a little closer to the microphone, that would be great. Thanks.
Thank you. So why become part of the Community Volunteer Income Tax Program? Why not? The CRA provides everything that you need, including the training for the volunteers. So each February, they offer webinars on a variety of different topics, everything your volunteers would need to know to prepare tax returns. They are offered live, and you have a chance to ask questions to the coordinator. They're also recorded for convenience, so people can watch them at a later time. And they also offer printed copies of those webinars in case people like a paper copy to refer to. They supply us with the customized tax preparation software, UFile. It's especially for tax volunteers. They also have a year-round dedicated helpline for volunteers. The wait is short. They can glean information from it. They don't have to wait on a long wait time. They provide us with the forms, and they'll even, if you request photocopies, they'll even send you photocopies of them. They also have a computer program. If you fill out an application, they will send you a refurbished computer that your volunteers can use to prepare income tax returns. They provide all the promotional material. If you don't want to make your own, you can print posters, you can print flyers, you can print a whole bunch of things right from the CVITP website and just put your own information on it. And at the end of the year, there is a grant available that you can apply for to help with expenses from your tax program. So if you have expenses incurred in stamps, or you have to rent a facility to provide the tax program, you can receive a grant. And that's based on the number of tax returns that you return. So can FCSS charge for the CVITP service? And the answer is no. Organizations and volunteers cannot charge for their services and must decline any offers of monetary reward. Those charging a fee for their services will be removed from the program, and you will have your e-file account suspended.
So if anybody, we're not, worried, but this is just something that we thought might be important to share.
Also important is anyone who is seeing or handling confidential tax documentation, including FCSS staff, any of the volunteers, must be registered with the Community Volunteer Income Tax Program. And depending on the level of involvement of your volunteer position, you might have to include your criminal record check. So even if you just have a staff that collects documents, someone comes and drops them off, they need to be registered and go through the screening process with the CVITP. The link on the page there does go to the CVITP registration page. That's how you would get your organization involved. It's important if you are recruiting new volunteers, or your volunteers each year have to renew their e-file number and resubmit their registration. It's important to do it early because sometimes the screening process can be long. So the CVITP usually sends out an email in November as a reminder to let organizations know it's time to renew your registration, it's time to recruit new volunteers, whatever you need to do. And then there's enough time for those registrations to be processed and screened before February, when they can start filing income tax.
And that is why we're doing this now, is just because November is going to be here before we know it. And it's a good idea to start thinking about this now, because tax time is somehow right around the corner.
So our Barons Eureka Warner FCSS tax clinics. So previous to COVID, we would have our volunteers come and sit and prepare taxes while people waited. They would book a half-hour appointment and they would have their taxes completed when they walked out the door. When COVID happened, we weren't able to do that safely, and so staff started collecting tax documents in person, and we, with the CVITP, they helped us come up with a online or over the phone process. So we started taking registrations, just kind of a drop-off situation, collecting tax documents and offering services over the phone. This proved to be much more efficient and way more successful, easier for our volunteers, as some of them are still working, and so then they could just do taxes on their own time. So we have continued the kind of drop-off modified way of doing things. Clients book an appointment with myself or one of the FCSS staff here. We collect their documents, we do the registration, and then I get the information to our tax volunteers. And we've also realized it's a great opportunity for us to be able to connect with clients and families to other resources, whether they be internal services offered by FCSS or whether they might be an external referral to the food bank or somewhere else they might need to be connected to. It's also a great opportunity when you're seeing people's documents, especially for myself, we work with seniors, we can see if they're collecting all the benefits that they are entitled to be getting. So a few more things of what we've found successful. We've really had a lot of success with offering services via phone and or email. It's helpful in some of our really remote communities if people don't have to travel, if people don't have transportation, that we can just complete their tax registration over the phone. We've also found it really successful to partner with other local organizations, for example, local housing authorities, senior centers, seniors living facilities, women's shelters, food banks, community adult learning programs, and offer our tax program right in their building or right in their facility. So for example, in Tabor, we book a time and we head right down to, we have 3 seniors manners. We just set up in their common area, book a time, they come down, they walk down the hall, bring us their papers, we take their registration, and we just get their taxes done. They don't have to leave the building if they don't want to. We also offer translation services. We have staff who can speak Low German. We have a high population of Low German Mennonite people in our region, so we find it helpful for them to be able to receive translation. And we also have staff who speak Spanish. And so we have some Spanish speaking people in some of our communities. And so that is very helpful when providing the tax clinics for them to be able to translate for us. And new this last tax year, we created the tax force. So we recruited or asked other FCSS staff, some of our parenting family services staff, to kind of get on.
Office is usually empty. I'm like, where are the voices coming from?
Yourself. Thank you. So we we had a few meetings with them. They received a weekly email. We gave them frequently asked questions, kind of just way more information than other staff would receive about the tax program so that they could feel comfortable talking to clients about it, sharing the information with their contacts and the organizations that they come into contact with. And also, since they live in some of our communities that we don't live in, they know where to advertise, where to spread the word. So we really encourage them to get out and pound the pavement kind of and share about the tax program, put up advertising. And that seemed to be hugely successful in some of our remote communities, just getting the word out. FCSS staff, including myself and the other senior services coordinator, and then a few folks in the Lethbridge County and the County of Warner are registered to accept the documents. And so that's an easy way for, you know, someone to walk into the building and be like, hey, I want to get my taxes done. And instead of getting Cindy to go out there or for them to call her, they can actually just receive the documents. Cindy collects them and then takes them to the volunteer. So it's a lot quicker. But again, the really important piece is that to be able to handle the information, you do have to be registered. Successful in recruiting tax volunteers. It's important to know that tax volunteers do not need to be an accountant. They don't need any formal training to help or to volunteer, but it is a good place to start looking, especially if the accounting firm is passionate about giving back. So we have connected with one of the accounting businesses in Tabor, and their staff are very passionate about giving back and using their skills to help low-income individuals and families. And so we actually have currently 2 volunteers who are chartered accountants, and we are very lucky to have them. But they don't need to be accountants. We also have 2 retired volunteers who are just retired seniors who want to help and have skills, and they enjoy giving back through doing taxes. We found the best way to recruit volunteers is not through posters, not through social media, but just to spread the word of mouth, call up someone and ask them, hey, would you be interested in doing this? And it's way harder to say no to a person on a phone call than it is to scroll by a poster on social media. So like I said, we currently have 4 registered community volunteer income tax volunteers, 2 are chartered accountants, and 2 are retired seniors. We are sharing this frequently asked questions. It's a little postcard that we give our clients after they've had their taxes completed and returned. We were just finding that we were receiving so many phone calls, so many texts, so many inquiries about after their taxes were returned to them, when they were going to get their refund, when they were going to get their notice of assessment, how much. Just lots of questions. We can sometimes tell them how much their refund is because it says it when they receive their summary, but we don't know the processing time of this CRA. Their standard time is 2 weeks, but we all know that sometimes that doesn't happen. So we have provided them with this little
postcard that has the number that they can contact the CRA and find out the status of their return and their refund. And we've also included there, lots of times we have clients who forget a slip or they get a slip late, and then we assist them with an amendment. So we can assist them through their My Account if they have one, or if they need to send in a form by mail, we can assist them with that.
And this is basically us learning that Cindy gets dozens of phone calls a day. And so if we can decrease it slightly, you know, maybe by 4 or 5, that will really help us be able to support other clients. And so this is something that we've decided this year might be a good idea, just because the tax program has been growing exponentially, which is good, but we also need some more help from staff or something like this to help mitigate some of the quantity of calls. Oh, it's over.
Okay, so we appreciate you attending today. So I guess we'll open it up for questions.
Thank you, good Lord.
Sorry, we had to use one computer today because mine wasn't working. So we just tried to share the space, but it looked like we were just half faces the whole time. We do in that slide have the link to the Community Volunteer Income Tax Program website where you can register your organization. There is a listing on the website where it says all organizations that have been registered. And so if you're not on it, that's how you know you're not registered. So, and yes, we will be able to share the client registration form, but we will have a watermark over it. And so you can take the information and use it how you see fit. However, you can't just like use the exact form. Okay, so let me just start looking through the questions here. So the tax application form you just showed, would it be possible to have that emailed? And like I said, it will be in the version of the PowerPoint, but you will have to actually copy and paste what you want. We're not allowed to just share something to be editable and used, but you can use the information as long as you take it and you incorporate it into your stuff. Does that answer that? Is there any benefits to use FCSS programs of volunteers versus using CRA professional program where they come into the community and run it free of charge? So the Community Volunteer Income Tax Program is free of charge. That was one of the slides that says you cannot take any kind of monetary or gift for your services. And then using the CRA professional program, or sorry, CPA, do you want to maybe take that?
I don't know a lot about the CPA professional program, so I can't answer if there would be benefits to using the program, the CVITP program, as opposed to that one. The only thing that I can think of off the top of my head is that we have an opportunity to interact with the clients then and see if we can connect them to other services, because often tax clients are looking or needing support in other areas of not just having their taxes completed.
Do you want to share any other information about that question? I'd be interested to hear what you have to say. Okay. Well, if you do, please. Oh. That is one way to do it, I suppose. But like I said, the CVITP program is free as well. So there isn't any kind of downside. I think as long as you have the staff and the volunteers to take on the program, it's like Cindy said, it's really nice to have access to them to be able to provide other supports as well. It's a good point of contact. A lot of people start out as clients, as tax clients, and then they kind of learn about the family supports, free counseling, all the other many things that we offer. Okay. Are your volunteers using exact script the Community Volunteer Income Tax Programs provides to do telephone intakes, or have staff adapted that so the consents are provided at intake? Do you want to take that one?
Yeah. So our volunteers don't do any intake. I would obtain all the consents, and in the beginning I did read the script that the CRA provided because I wanted to make sure that I was getting them all the information and providing them with the information to make an informed consent at that time. now that I've said it so many times, I have kind of condensed it to what I say in order to obtain the consents. If I do it over the phone, if I'm meeting them in person, they get read the consents right off the forms.
Every year, basically, because Cindy is kind of the one with the most connection to the CVITP, and so she will do a lot of the sharing for staff like myself and other parts of the tax force, as we like to call them, just to make sure that we're all aware of what's needed in language that we understand. Sometimes it can be a little bit difficult just to know what they're talking about if you don't have a lot of connection with like just taxes. So that's been really, really helpful, having kind of a point person who does the training, who gets all the information and then is able to then share that either through the like PowerPoints that the CVITP does, like the training, or if, you know, Cindy is feeling comfortable to just like share that information just in kind of like layman's terms, if that makes sense. But the training is really not hard. It sometimes just takes a few, like a couple hours, not even. What is the process to get the training? Oh, that's a perfect question. So the actual, so there's a difference between the registration process and the training.
Yeah, so if you are going to facilitate the Community Volunteer Income Tax Program through your FCSS organization, you first need to register FCSS as an organization. You'll need to register your staff who are helping to facilitate the program and your volunteers. Those staff and volunteers will then have to, when they go to do their own registration, they need to affiliate with your FCSS who you registered. So there's kind of a two-step process. So after you register with the CVITP as an organization and as a volunteer, even if you are staff, the next step is to apply for an e-file number. That's what takes the time with the screening and the processing, is to obtain that e-file number, which allows you to then file income tax. If you're only going to be collecting tax documents and you never are going to process a return, you don't need to apply for an e-file number. So after you do all the registration, then in February, the CRA or the CVITP will share their training webinars. They just send out an email with a link. You can go, they're all free. You can register for them. And after they air live, they're recorded and you can watch their recordings. Also, everyone who registers with the CVITP is assigned a regional coordinator. And so ours are, they're called Southern Alberta regional coordinators. You're assigned to a person and that person will be your point person and provide you with so much information and support. So if you want a printed copy of the training, you just email them and they'll send it out to you.
And training is kind of pick and choose which ones apply to you. So there's a lot that have to do with families, like maybe different tax benefits that families can access, maybe disability benefits that they can access. And you can actually go through and watch the ones that are applicable to your region. Not all of them might be, but some of them might. So, and after a while, the training, like the videos kind of get redundant. So you end up saturated with the information. And like we said, like for if your volunteers are actually doing the tax returns, they don't need to be chartered accountants. It's with all this, the simplicity of the tax returns that we are collecting, it's pretty rare that they don't know how to go through the e-file and actually put in the numbers and spit out the return at the bottom. So, and yes, we will share the PowerPoint. Yeah, like I said, with the training time, it's kind of based on what the volunteers want to access. So it can, what do you think?
Yeah, I think initially, like if you have a volunteer onboarding for the first time, I would suggest that they watch every single webinar. And I would say that is probably 5 to 8 hours worth of webinars. I have a volunteer who does not like to watch the webinar. She likes the printed copies, and so I make her a binder, and then she likes to review the information. She likes to read it and then highlight it. So there's lots of different ways that they can do the training. It just depends on the volunteer and what method they like. But it is a big commitment, and every year if there's changes to the way they want the taxes reported or benefits or whatever it might be from the CRA, it does take time to update your knowledge and so that you can prepare your tax returns for the next year. But I would say probably 5 to 8 hours.
Are there any other questions for Cindy or Kaitlynn?
I've got one just quick. When taxes are filed, if you're doing a telephone intake, are you mailing out the client's information back to them or having them pick up? And if you mail out, there's no way that they can sign the authorizations. So are you just not bothering to send that to them?
No, we get their consent for their authorizations over the phone. So they get read the statements and then they say, yes, I consent, or no, I don't. And then on the authorization form, we just mark via phone and the date and the time.
Okay.
And so we get mailed back that authorization with the document control number and the information that the volunteer puts on the bottom of that taxpayer authorization form.
Okay, that's great. That's how we do it as well. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't outliers.
Is there anybody not using the Community Volunteer Income Tax Program? I'm just interested. Okay, that's good. It's good to know that we're doing some things. Oh, I said, is there anybody not using the Community Volunteer Income Tax Program? Okay, any other questions before we sign off? It was a pretty quick overview. Okay, I see one more in the chat. Do your volunteers meet the clients, or are you the drop-off point? We meet the clients, yes. So we either collect the taxes, or we either do it over the phone, or we actually collect them and then take them to the volunteers after we do all the intake and all the forms, of course.
Do you include in your program getting people set up on CRA My Account? Because that is a kind of a lengthy process. How do you incorporate that?
That's a good question.
We don't currently do that, but the CRA is transitioning to only providing online notice of assessment starting in 2023. And so that is something that we might have to look at, or perhaps partnering with one of our community adult learning programs to have them help set up those accounts for clients. If your volunteers register for an e-file number and then do the extra registration to obtain a rep ID to be able to use the autofill, they can also use the Represent a Client portal, which is basically accessing someone's My Account with the restriction of not being able to change any personal information. So there's that option as well, because I know it is a lengthy process to set up a My Account for a client.
Yeah, I'm just a bit worried when they aren't going to be sending out those notices of assessment, how we're going to manage that next year.
Yeah,
We agree. Yeah, we connected with Tabor Adult Learning, who does a lot of digital literacy stuff, and they're actually taking people through the Alberta version. I can't remember the name. Yeah. And so I'm like, can we do that at the same time with the folks that you're seeing? They said that they're willing to kind of work with us. But yeah, I think only a year to get everybody set up is not enough.
No, but that is a good idea to partner with the adult learning. That's a great idea.
Good questions, Sherry. Thank you. Will they email the notice of assessment to the client? Do you mean the government of Canada or us or the volunteer? Yes, the government of Canada.
They will if the client indicates, if they click when they go through the taxes, the volunteer has to click, yes, I consent to receiving email communications, and they have to provide an email address.
Well,
just
I'll
wanted
have
to
one
say-
last question. You're using the FCSS data collection. So in Okotoks, we use a spreadsheet where we kind of track just so we can track the returns. We're tracking the client's name, phone number, and then and who the volunteer has been assigned, and when we get it back, and whether we've mailed it back out to the client or they've picked it up. And then we've incorporated onto that same spreadsheet the FCSS data collection. So probably that's not too legit because we do have identifying information for our purposes on that. But then we just can copy and paste from our own tracking spreadsheet into the FCSS document for the data collection for the province. And that's been helpful. How are you managing the two different processes of tracking who's got what return and what's the status is, and also the data collection?
Our FCSS, we've incorporated something pretty recently within the last 2 years called Outcome Tracker. And we've been working with the other departments to make sure that we get a standardized registration form and all of the information strictly for our FCSS is uploaded to Outcome Tracker. And then I'll let you take the rest of it for the spreadsheet.
So on the bottom of our registration form, I write, where it says for FCSS use only, I write the volunteer who has that return. And then in our outcome tracker, we have a tab called session notes, and I usually make a note in there about pickup, about mail out, about how they are receiving their tax documents back. So we keep all the client information, I guess, on outcome tracker, and then the FCSS AA spreadsheet go on that one.
So we basically do it twice.
Yeah.
Is pretty, and by we I mean Cindy. But yeah, we do keep the client information separate on outcome tracker, and then basically you just take a day or an afternoon or whatever and kind of transfer that into the spreadsheet once it's completed.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, there's not a perfect way, I don't think, just because we've kind of thought about incorporating the FCSS AA data requirements into outcome tracker. But the issue with that is that then we have, people's tax return information, social insurance number, things that we just don't need on outcome tracker. And plus we need all of our reporting or all of our forms to be standardized across the rest of the FCSS. And so that's why we are able to edit the registration form that we've created to make sure it's applicable to FCSS AA form, but the rest of FCSS doesn't use that. They just use the client information form. So that's kind of how we've been able to collect the information, and then we go and afterwards and separate it between registration form for just for outcome tracker and then the tax information just for FCSS AA.
Thank you.
I noticed on your sheets that your intake sheet that you had, and I didn't get a chance to look through the whole thing, but you had LGBTQ and you also had transgender on the two different areas. Is that something that you have to report on? Or I was just curious as to why you would ask that, or if it's the government wants that, or if that's.
So that's the standard kind of community is what we call it, which sometimes gets confusing because we have multiple municipalities, but that's the standard form for the community options for demographics that we use for the entire FCSS that we, like all the programs that we offer at FCSS. And so that first part, I wonder, actually, let me just pull it up here if that's helpful. Oops. Now let me go through the process of figuring out how to do this again. Oh my goodness.
So that's a specific to FCSS reporting then.
To
It's not,
our, yes.
okay. It's not something that the government of Canada is asking for in their basic tax.
No. So you'll
Okay.
see basically the first page, and it's kind of small because I can't figure out how to do the thing that I did. But basically this whole first page, other than tax year requesting to be filed, is our standard registration form that FCSS offers. So first name, mailing address, municipality, contact message method, including cell, landline, email, community, so Indigenous, LGBT, LGM, Francophone. Some of this actually is for the Family Resource Network, which we have funding through. So that's specifically Francophone. And so regardless if they're accessing family supports, you know, if they identify as Francophone, then they can click that. And same with gender. And then the rest of it is all information that is either required to complete their taxes or for the FCSS AA spreadsheet. So social insurance number, we need that to complete their taxes. We need their province of residence. We need to know if their marital status has changed. And then if their spouse is also completing their taxes. And then on this side, it's dependents. And then specific CRA information, which I said is we've been kind of updating to make sure our volunteers have the most information that they need to then complete the tax returns without having to either call the client or call us. And like I said, that changes pretty much every year. So this one's pretty new. Like, did you sell your house in the tax year? Because that's been pretty common. And then other documents that they might be incorporating, including medical receipts, charitable donations, childcare expenses. And then this is what Cindy was talking about, the for FCSS use only. Yeah, this is for the spreadsheet. So yes, it was entered in the month of return, the process. Oh my gosh, the return was processed, and then you'll see entered an outcome tracker, which is our own like reporting system.
Okay, thanks for going over that.
Yeah, you're welcome. And like I said, I'll be able to share all of this, and we'll just have a little watermark over it so you can take what you need and leave what is not applicable. Anything else before we wrap up?
Sorry, Kaitlynn. I just want to clarify, because even on your spreadsheet it says it's going to the FCSS AA, where as the association we don't collect that data. So does this mean it's going to the your provincial reporting to the
Yes, sorry. Whatever the spreadsheet is that we get, I swear I saw FCSS AA on the title of it, but whatever the spreadsheet that everybody's getting that you're supposed to input the data into, that's what it is.
Right,
So,
to the government. Okay,
yeah.
thanks.
Good clarification. Sorry about that. We'll have to change some stuff.
That's excellent. Any other questions? This was a lot of really great information. Thank you to everyone who's offering these programs in their communities. I know they're very important and they provide such an excellent service to a population that really needs it. So thank you so much, Kaitlynn and Cindy. Thank you everyone for joining us, and we will get the recording and the slides out to everyone in the next little bit here. Have a great day.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
Bye.